The mainland further eases COVID rules, scrapping quarantine requirements for travellers and isolation for infected persons with mild symptoms. Locally, calls for a gradual resumption of cross-border travel to avoid excessive pressure on the healthcare system. And the NPC Standing Committee is set to interpret the national security law during a meeting starting today. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Starting January the 8th, the mainland is scrapping quarantine requirements for all international arrivals, marking the end of China's nearly 3 years of isolation. The central government also announced a slew of other COVID policy changes, including the removal of lockdown measures and no more isolation of COVID patients with mild or no symptoms. Jackie Lin kicks off our coverage tonight.
Among the mainland's latest pivot from its long-running zero-COVID policy, the management of COVID-19 has been downgraded from a top-level Class A disease on par with cholera or bubonic plague to a less infectious Class B sickness alongside SARS, HIV and tuberculosis. This comes as the official Chinese term for COVID was rechristened on Monday from novel coronavirus pneumonia to novel coronavirus infection. The downgrading means the end of blitzes of large-scale lockdowns and designation of high-risk areas that have disrupted numerous mainland residents' daily lives over the past 3 years. There's no more isolation of COVID patients with mild or no symptoms. Authorities will also stop identifying close contacts. Another major step to dismantle the last vestiges of their zero-COVID policies, opening up the mainland to international travels. Starting January 8th, those entering the nation won't have to undergo PCR testing and quarantine or use a health code. Still, foreign visitors entering China should test negative in nucleic acid screening 48 hours before departure. The government says both the inbound and outbound travels will resume in an orderly manner in light of the support capacity of all sectors. Passenger limits on international flights will be scrapped. Masks should still be worn while on board. Travels via sea and land border checkpoints will be resumed in phases. But all the policy relaxation comes while tens of thousands of new daily infections are reported on the mainland at municipal levels.
可能会出现新冠病毒感染病例的增加。
Liang Wannian, head of the country's COVID response expert panel, admitted the spike in COVID cases might lead to shortages of medical supplies and manpower crunch at some hospitals and even public panic. He said authorities will make relevant efforts to smoothen the transition period, with the prevention of severe cases, death, and people's health being at the top of the agenda. Complementing policies include mandating COVID vaccination for those working in large corporations or industries such as transport and security guards. Municipal government should also report and collect COVID testing results daily. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Also starting January the 8th, the online reservation system for Shenzhen quarantine hotel rooms will cease operation. With the mainland dropping most of the travel restrictions, experts and lawmakers are calling for a gradual resumption of cross-border travel, fearing the relaxation will lead to more outbreaks in the city. Mimosa Ngai reports.
This is Peg. She told TVB News that her mother was diagnosed with cancer a few months ago on the mainland, but Peg has not been able to cross the border to visit her due to quarantine restrictions. She fears if she will never be able to see her mother again. Many have been facing the same problem as well, but things are about to change. Following the latest announcement, many rushed to the China Travel Services website to renew their mainland travel permit. So far, the application centers are fully booked until next Friday. A lawmaker urged authorities to set up quotas in the early stages of the resumption of cross-border travel, starting with a daily quota of 20,000.
Before COVID, the daily travel of people from mainland to Hong Kong is at around 140,000. There's a restriction for over 3 years, and then if all of a sudden, if you release all at once, considering maybe there will be quite a number of people who are positive in COVID, and that will result in a huge pressure in our healthcare system, and even the demand for the local pharmacies and medicines will be huge. And this actually applies to the mainland side as well.
Hong Kong authorities noted the Coordination Group on Resumption of Normal Travel is working hard to establish the best policies to facilitate the resumption of cross-border travel, which will hopefully be implemented before mid-January. In the latest announcement, mainland authorities were said to be lifting quarantine for confirmed patients. Infectious disease expert Joseph Tan said, mixing confirmed patients and those who are not COVID positive in Hong Kong will increase the risk of infection. He said there are still residents who don't have enough vaccinations or immunity, so authorities will have to make sure how these people can be protected if quarantine is lifted for confirmed patients. Meanwhile, Foshan Pharma announced that mainland residents can receive the BioNTech bivalent vaccine in Hong Kong, but it's unclear when the rollout will start. So far, non-Hong Kong residents can only pay to receive the BioNTech bivalent jab in private medical institutions in Hong Kong. Mimosa Nai, TVB News.
The city reported 18,626 new coronavirus cases. 53 more COVID patients passed away. Some 17,600 infections were locally acquired. There were almost 1,000 imported cases. 52 care homes reported new COVID cases involving some 80 residents and 16 workers. There have been no reports of new COVID diagnoses from schools during the Christmas holiday. Inpatient medical bed occupancy rates at acute hospitals have surged to 116%. As COVID cases continue an upward trajectory in the mainland, several countries have placed further restrictions on tourists from China, including Japan, where mainland visitors will be tested upon arrival starting Friday. Japanese media also reported that all flights arriving from the mainland, Hong Kong and Macau can land at only 4 of the country's airports. Timothy Lee reports.
China has seen rapid growth in infection numbers across the country since relaxing several anti-COVID restrictions. In response to the explosion of coronavirus cases on the mainland, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida announced that beginning on Friday, all travelers from China or those who were in the mainland the previous 7 days must be tested upon arrival. If they test positive, they will be sent to designated facilities to undergo isolation for 7 days. Tokyo said that it would begin limiting the number of flights between Japan and China, saying it was difficult to grasp the mainland's pandemic situation. Meanwhile, Japanese newspaper Yomiuri Shimbun reported that flights from the mainland, Hong Kong, and Macau are only permitted to use Tokyo's Narita International Airport and Haneda Airport, Osaka's Kansai International Airport, and Nagoya's Chubu Centrair International Airport. Currently, visitors to Japan are required to be either triple jabbed or provide a negative PCR test result within 72 hours before arrival. Neighboring South Korea earlier imposed further travel restrictions for visitors from China, as well as more than 10 other countries, but stressed it was not meant to limit the number of tourists. Last Saturday, the Indian government announced that inbound travelers from the mainland, Hong Kong, and 3 other Asian countries must undergo PCR tests upon arrival. Outside Asia, Italy has also strengthened its anti-COVID measures in response to the rise of infections in China. Authorities in Rome have mandated that all Chinese tourists entering the country via Milan Malpensa Airport to perform a PCR test upon arrival, a measure that will be put in place until at least the 30th of January. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
In the 4-day meeting of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress in Beijing, the senior state official overseeing Hong Kong affairs requested the body to interpret the SAR's national security law. State media Xinhua News Agency reported that Xia Baolong, director of the State Council's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, delivered the report today. Earlier, Chief Executive John Lee had submitted a report to the central government to seek clarification over the use of overseas counsels in the city's national security-related trials. China's military sent planes and ships towards Taiwan in a 24-hour show of force from Sunday to Monday. This as a response to Taiwan-related provisions in the annual United States Defense Spending Bill. Matthew Bray reports.
Taiwan's defense ministry said on Monday that between 6 a.m. Sunday and 6 a.m. Monday, the Chinese military had sent 71 planes and 7 ships towards the island. Among the planes crossing the median of the Taiwan Strait, an unofficial boundary once tacitly accepted by both sides, 18 J-16 fighters, 11 J-1 jets, 6 Su-30s and various drones. Taiwan said it monitored the moves through land-based missile systems as well as by its own navy. A spokesman for the PLA's Eastern Theater Command called it a firm response to the current US-Taiwan escalation and provocation. What prompted the latest drills is the American defense spending bill, which calls Beijing a strategic challenge and allows increased security cooperation with Taiwan. Washington responded by saying that it would continue to assist Taiwan in maintaining a self-defense capability in line with its One China policy. The PLA also staged large-scale war games near Taiwan in August after a visit to Taipei by then US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. As a result, Taiwan has today extended compulsory military service to 1 year from 4 months. Taipei said under the plans, which come into effect in 2024, conscripts would undergo more intense training, including shooting exercises and combat instruction used by US forces. The island is undergoing a broad modernization program, flagging the idea of asymmetric warfare, that is, making the island's forces more mobile, agile and harder to attack. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
Former South Korean President Lee Myung-bak has been granted a special pardon by the current president, Yoon Suk-yeol. Lee, president from 2008 to 2013, had been serving a 17-year prison term for corruption, embezzlement and bribery since 2018, but is in poor health. In June, prosecutors suspended Lee's imprisonment upon his request, citing his health problems. The pardon, effective on Wednesday, cancels the remaining 15 years of prison time. The CEO-turned-conservative politician was originally convicted of taking bribes from big businesses, including Samsung. A main road in eastern Serbia remains closed after an ammonia leak from a goods train that derailed. An emergency situation is in place in the town of Pirit near the Bulgarian border. The toxic gas was released into the air, making dozens of people sick after 2 wagons on the 20-wagon train overturned. 15 people remain hospitalized. Schools and other public institutions are closed. Serbia's infrastructure minister Goran Vesic said a possible cause of the crash was the poor condition of the railway track. State television reported that 1 older patient had died and a man's body had been found close to the derailment. The government announced that the chief executive's policy unit would be officially formed tomorrow, with lawmaker Stephen Wong as head of the unit. The Legislative Council has received Wong's resignation letter, and his departure will take effect immediately. Stephen Wong is the senior vice president of the Our Hong Kong Foundation. When John Lee ran for the chief executive, Wong served as the deputy director of Lee's campaign office and assisted in writing his political platform. Wong is also a current member of the LegCo Election Committee. It is expected that a by-election will be held. Chief Executive John Lee uploaded a video to social media saying Wong has extensive experience and would be the right candidate for his new role. That's the news. Thanks for watching.